So today I'm going to talk to you about the Layens Hive setup, but I like to try new things, so I thought I would introduce a different style of hive support system. This hive stand comes from Better Bee, of course. It's actually designed for the polystyrene style hives, and they cost quite a bit, $99.95. But they're galvanized, they're heavy duty, they have a great capacity. The two stands together with a 2x4 between them, although I used a 4x4, will support 1,100 pounds. And these are pressure treated 4x4s that cut them down on the ends like 2x4s. And even though the terrain here is very uneven, each of the legs can be adjusted individually, so it actually levels up and has the approval of my 5-year-old grandson. He even weight tested it. Holds him. But anyway, close up, there are also these bolts that you screw tight to hold onto the wood that you've put in. And there are retaining chains on the pins that allow you to adjust it. So even down the line, if they sink in a little, they can be adjusted. How high is it off the ground? 19 inches, well above skunk reach. So we're all set to put our Layens Hive on there. And before we put the Layens Hive out there, we have to put the frames together. And this whole kit comes from horizontalhive.com from Dr. Leo Sherishkin. And I'm going to show you how to put the wax foundation in there. We're going to use this battery-powered remote starter, which works really great for oxalic acid vaporization as well. PSJ 222 something was the model number there. I don't even know if you can get it anymore. And I'm also using these Hive Butler totes to carry things around in. People want to know, hey Fred, do the Hive Butler totes handle those Layens frames? No, they don't. The frames are too deep. Also, I have this old 2x4, 2x12 plank that I cut off. I'm going to use that to support the frames off the OSB board here. I'm going to show you two different methods for installing the wax foundation. I bought the wax foundation from the Horizontal Hive website, and the stuff is pretty expensive. $49 for 14 sheets. That makes it $3.50 per sheet. They come from Spain because Dr. Leo says that wax from Spain has less pesticide residue in it. So I wanted to test the unit, test the system, so I'm using what he recommends. And this little roller thing is called a spur embedder. It's made out of brass. Got it from Better Bee, $9.95 for that. And you can just force it in here. Some people like to heat it up, set it in boiling water, use a torch to heat it, and then supposedly you can use that heat to embed it into this wax foundation. I'm just pressure setting it, which, by the way, did work. So if you're looking for a cheap way to embed the wire foundation, just get this daggone spur embedder for under $10. There's probably other designs out there. This particular one has a groove through the middle of it, so it will ride on the wires, and the wires come already embedded in the frames, and it comes with 20 frames when you buy the system. So the hive itself is $598.99, and then when you add $49 for the frames, $14.99 for the foundation, you're already at $762.93 if you bought the stand too. So the other thing is you can also heat it up and embed it that way, which is going to be my favorite method, but it is an added expense. But I'm just showing you time-wise how much time would it take you to use this little roller and embed all the frames. I mean all the wires. So when you do that, you're under a minute per frame. So it's pretty easy, but it does of course flatten out the embossing here, so the little frames are interrupted, but it does really cling to this wire pretty good even without heating the spur embedder. Probably could improve it a little better if I put some wax paper between the wax foundation and the board underneath. Also would be better if my board were just a little wider and came all the way up to the edges there, but you're just moving around and everything seems fine. There it is. Smooth on the back side, but it looks like it's going to hold its place. All we want to do is hold it on there enough for the bees to work at it. Here's a close-up of the spur and better wheel. And it gets a little wax on it, so if you heated it up, it would melt that down. I like that. Cheap solution, fast, it works. No electricity necessary. Use it anywhere. Put it in your bee kit. Now I also have the wax embedder that comes from Better Bee, and I have a new method that I'm going to connect that with, and that's because one of the viewers wrote me and said, hey, just get some AWG 12 household wiring, hook that on your wire embedding system, and then stick them in the holes, and instead of using the little clamps. So I decided to take these braided pieces off, and this system costs under 30 bucks from Better Bee, but I'm modifying it. You can make your own very easily. You can see that it's the corner of an old bee box. Comes with those wing nuts and a little washer on the back side there. So we hook up the AWG 12, which is standard household current for outlets. And now we're going to stick those into the frames that have the wires on them. You must put them in at the bitter end of each of the wires, because it's only going to heat up the wires between the conductors. So if you ran this to the middle, for example, the outer wires would not be in the flow and therefore wouldn't heat up and wouldn't melt into the wax. So here we are connected to my emergency starting system here, PSJ 2212, that's it. Pro Series. Lasts a long time. Auto dealerships use it to start batteries on cars that have been in storage for a long time, things like that. So we did a quick test run there. It sure did work. Embedded nicely, did it right away. And I was pushing down on it a little bit. So I'm going to try this again and just see what happens if I just lay it on there and let the wires heat up, get the wax to a melting point there, and then watch it sink right in on its own. Pretty easy stuff. You can do a whole bunch of them in a short amount of time. This is backyard beekeeping. We have lots of time. Just want to make sure everything gets set up. These frames, as I said before, did come from Horizontal Beekeeping. Stick the wires in the holes. And then we're just going to turn it on here. There it goes. And immediately the wires warm up and can slide on the foundation. Look at that. So I want to put it a little bit towards the top bar, I'm thinking. If not, the bees will just fill that gap, but I thought it'd help them out. And you can see I'm pushing down it a little bit so the ends actually melt in quicker. I found out later, after doing several of them, I don't have to push down on it. You can just set it on here, and then it will sink in on its own, and you decide how far you want the wires to go into the wax. And just turn it off. Hold it in place, let it cool, and then the wax cools around the tops of the wires. And it's going to stay there. You can see on the ends the wires came through because I was pushing down, and in the middle, just the raised edges of the hexa cells. Actually, hold on, so let's take a close-up view of it. Seeing it heat up, see the wax next to the wire starting to heat up. And then we're going to see it sink in. And now the wax closes in over the top of the wire. And this, by the way, is steel wire that is nickel coated. And then we're going to turn off the power and watch the wax cool down and enclose the wire. So it's embedded. How easy is that? And of course it does all the wires at the same time, so we're ahead time-wise. So if you're in a hurry and don't want to use that spur embedder, just go ahead and run some electricity through it. This is a 12-volt system. So I like that. Now here it is outside. I painted this thing on this side with acrylic, artist acrylic from Liquitex non-toxic stuff, and then I clear coated it with Liquitex clear coat. Here's the inside here. This thing is thick and insulated with sheep's wool. Notice that there is no space above the top bars of these frames. So I'm going to put them in with foundation, and then I'm going to have foundationless in between. So I'm using the foundation as a guide. So when the bees start to draw down their wax comb, they will be able to follow the guides set by these wax foundations. You could also cut these in half and put a short starter strip on every one of the frames if you wanted to, but I like to see the comparison of no foundation and foundation. We're going to be putting a swarm in here because the frames are a different size than the Langstroth frames. And rather than fool with that, I'm going to let them start fresh. We're held up here. Today is April the 22nd. And of course, this sequence was filmed before that because today we have snow and cold and 20 degrees and 29 degrees and 30 degrees. And this little divider board, follower board, goes right up into the cover. And all it has to do is meet up against the top bar of these frames, and the bees can't get out through there. There's also a plastic feeder that comes with it that I purchased. That plastic feeder is not cheap. It's $14.99. It also came from Spain. And I marked each frame, foundation, no foundation, NFN, FN. And the good news is we can store everything right here. There's no room for that feeder, so I have to pull out frame number 20, and then I will put the feeder in there. And I have to make a little wooden cover for the feeder part. This is the other side of the hive. Comes with 3 entrances. I closed off 2 out of 3. And we're going to open it here at the end because that's where we're going to start the bees. And this is household paint on this side, so I just decided to flip a bunch of paint on here and make a little scene out of it. And I'm going to see how the Liquitex paint on one side compares to regular household acrylic on this side, exterior. And that's pretty much the setup. And look at today. This I filmed this morning, April 22nd. We have snow. And of course, I put a piano hinge on it, stainless steel. It's 3 feet long. So the hive itself is 3 feet long. And I'm anxious to get started with it. Here again is the other side with Liquitex non-toxic paint with Liquitex clear coating. And we're going to see how that goes. So I just wanted to give you a little primer to show you the stand that I'm using, that I'm trying out. Also to see how I've put together the hive. And of course that piano hinge. Show you the weather situation we have, which has put our bees on pause. Although I do have colonies that were building up really fast, doing fire drills and things like that. So watch later. The next video involving the Layens Hive will have the install of a swarm, hopefully. And we'll see how the bees use it. Thanks for watching.